everyone. Welcome to Mission to Inspire. My name is Shola, and we've got our wonderful guests with us today. His name is Alan Thomas and his beautiful partner, Angie, with him today. And they'll be talking to us about their transformation. Now, I'm going to leave them to talk about it because I think it's sweeter when it comes from the horse's mouth. So Alan and Angie, I'll leave the floor to you.
No, that's good. Great to be here with you, Shola. Thank you so much for having us. And yeah, to give you kind of a perspective, about 7 years ago now, when I was 55 years old, and I stepped on the bathroom scale, which is something I didn't do very often back then. And I saw something I thought I never would see, which is 304 pounds. And I'm 5'11". I'm not 7 feet tall. And I don't know how many stones that is, but that's a lot of stones in UK terminology. But 304 pounds really meant several things to me. As I was standing there, I started to think about people that I knew, and I'd spent more than a decade in the burial life insurance business. That's serves the senior citizens, senior market. It's people predominantly over 65. And in the thousands of homes that I had been in, I could not ever remember meeting a 65-year-old man that was more than 100 pounds overweight.
Mm.
And now I still had 10 years to go before reaching that 65 mark. But what it meant to me was that the reason I never met any men in that situation, I mean, we met a few since, but they're what we call unicorns. That's very rare for a man to live 100 pounds overweight to age 65. And the reason is that you don't see them is because they passed away from obesity related illnesses. And so standing there on that scale, it was kind of like a disaster. And when somebody sees a disaster, they call 911, they make sure everybody's okay, then they take a picture. And I happen to have my cell phone nearby, and I took a picture of that scale that morning. And on our website, people can see that scale. That's the actual scale of that particular day. But me not being able to control my weight really spoke to the fact that my wife Angie, who, as you said, is the beautiful Angie, who is my wife, my partner's my wife for 38 years almost now. But we just celebrated our 31st wedding anniversary the day before I saw that 304 pounds, and it meant she was probably going to be married to another man, not because she was shopping around, but because I couldn't put down the fork and spoon. I kept eating, and it meant that my kids, who are all grown now, but they're still your kids no matter what age they are, and that we wouldn't be able to enjoy the future grandchildren that we hope to have one day. We wouldn't be able to walk my daughter down the aisle to spend the time with it. And then really what the things that I was created for, because I believe all of us are here for a reason. I don't think we're accidents floating around the universe. And I believe that I'm here for a reason. And then there would be things, purpose and passion and things that I won't ever get to do because of the obesity. And so as I said, I snapped a picture of it, and I made a commitment to myself standing there on that scale that I would never see that number again. And we went on a very public journey. I started a few days after that, where I just committed publicly that I would never, that I would take off that weight, that extra 129 pounds. And I committed to 265 days, and we missed it. We got it off in 260, so it happened quicker than we think. But it was interesting. It was always available. It was always available. It was after 35 years of struggling with every diet on the planet. I mean, it's people who struggle with weight like I used to. We all know we could write a book on weight loss. We know the things, but what we're missing, the key components, the missing pieces. It's not the diet. Did I have to change what I eat? Of course I did. Did I have to exercise? Yeah, and exercise helps. I mean, we've got clients who, frankly, cannot exercise for medical reasons. They still lose weight. There's always a way to do it. and it is interesting. We get hung up in so many other things, but that's kind of where our journey started. And Angie, as she'll tell, she joined me on that journey and dropped 63 pounds of her weight, which she didn't need to lose as much as me, but I'll be quiet so you can. I like talking for her, so she lets me. She's the arm candy. She lets me talk.
Yeah, as he said, he put a public declaration out, and I knew that. Well, first of all, I was just appalled and mad and frustrated and scared and all these different emotions, because I'm like, oh my word, this is out in the world. Our children, are they going to be teased about it, or from people seeing it and their friends' parents and just the world, as it can be so cruel. But really deep down, I knew the big issue was that I had my own weight to lose, because while, as he said, I had not gotten to the obesity level he had. And that's hard to say because, I love my husband no matter what. But I didn't even realize how much he weighed. I had no clue. But just like he had no clue, I had not weighed in years. I mean, I would go for the yearly checkup. Thankfully, neither of us had any medical issues. So we weren't like going to the doctor every few months and all of that.
Except our obesity.
Our obesity and our weight was a medical issue. But it had not caused us to have any chronic illnesses, if you will. Bottom line is that I would go in and I would say, I finally got to the point as I kept gaining weight. Well, I'm not obese. I'm not skinny, but I'm not obese. Well, I was borderline obese, and I didn't even realize it. Okay. And so I knew though what was going to be the next step is that I also was going to be on this public journey. And it's very humbling. It was very humbling. But you know what? 190 days later, when I went back to the doctor and I weighed on the scale, and on our site, you'll see my picture with it saying 125 pounds. So in 190 days, I went from 188 to the 125, and I'm 5'7". So that was ideal for me. Everybody has a different weight that they feel is their best weight. These were the weights that Alan and I had chosen for us. Not based on a chart, based on our history and what we were like in college and what we felt good and comfortable and certainly healthy still. Not like we weren't getting anorexic, let's say, okay, not taking it too far. But yeah, I was a little worried about it and not real happy. But as he told me, the wise man he is, he said, oh, and 190 or 200 days, whatever, he said, you won't be mad at me anymore. Or at 260 for him, you won't be mad anymore. And he was right, because obviously having the best version of each other for each other is what we want for our family, for ourselves, but for our family. And like you said, while our children are grown now, our youngest was 15 at that time, we're still examples for our family, for our children. And, our activities are just very different than they were back then too. We have a lot more fun together, biking and, walking at the beach and so forth. And while we don't you don't have to exercise, as you said, if people have something that they enjoy, it's just, as as everybody knows, it's great for your mind, it's great for your body, but there's something about it for us. We typically start our day within the first hour or so. We're out on our bikes, and we do live in a beautiful, beautiful island. And so we're about a mile from the Atlantic Ocean, and we have a state park. So we hit the beach, boardwalks, and so forth, and then we go into the park. And for us, 15 miles is typical, and it makes us feel good. So our life, we were not doing that prior to losing the weight. I mean, it would have been too exhausting at 304 pounds.
Wow.
We had bikes, but we weren't really using them. So anyway, but I'm thankful that he made that decision. That morning.
Great. So both of you made the decision, basically. He made it first and you followed suit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and that's one of the things. I mean, we work with a lot of people, and whether somebody's struggling with 25 pounds or 50 pounds or 200 or 300 excess pounds. I mean, it's all the same thing. I mean, it is, and we can all have I had my coping mechanisms. She had her coping mechanisms to make it okay. It's not okay, and it doesn't mean that somebody's a bad person. And just like Angie said, ideal weight. It's like this. The way I would describe ideal weight to people, they're wondering what they should weigh. Think about if the creator of the universe showed up and introduced you to the version of yourself that you could have always been at your present age. What does that person weigh? Not the version that you would settle for, the version that you were created to be. And that's because that's the weight of it's not going to be printed on a chart somewhere. I mean, you have to pay attention to your health. You have to, I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling people not to pay attention to health, but we all know intuitively, inherently what we should weigh at some level. And because the weight that you're no longer worried about the excess weight, the weight that you're free. When you're free, that is very different for different people. And so, but it really is, but we weren't created to carry, I wasn't created to carry an extra 130 pounds on me. She wasn't created to carry an extra 63 pounds. There's a price to that. There's a big price, and it's not just the price of the health. The health is important, and there's all kind of studies out there, but you and I've not seen a definitive one, but it's pretty commonly figured out that about a month per pound is about think about what it would be like if you could buy back an extra month, an extra 10 months. I mean, what does that really mean to your life? What does that mean to your family? What does that mean for things that are going on? Think about those things. Don't just think about it from the standpoint of, sure, your type 2 diabetes might disappear. Sure, your blood pressure might go away. Sure, you may be able to run marathons like we've had clients. Sure, you've had different things, and all those things are nice. But what if you could be free?
It's true. And freedom is just, do you know freedom is key when you're free? You're not thinking of anything detrimental to, you or me, but thinking of well-being, being healthy, being able to do everything else that we want to do, and enjoying life with all the people we want to enjoy with. So that's very true. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. Thank you so much for sharing. So we go to the second segment of today, which is this or that. Are you ready?
I'm ready for this or that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Right. Okay. First one. Cardio or strength training? So in your fitness journey that you've just told us about, did you find cardio, workouts, or strength training more impactful for your weight loss?
Well, I think the answer to that question, it depends on the individual. For us, really, I mean, there's a saying we use with our clients that you cannot outrun your fork. Okay, it's always faster. But it's, for us, we do both. I mean, we do both, but really we encourage people to find something that they like doing. Like we cycle for 15 miles this morning early. And that's not a big deal. Some people cycle for 50, or some people cycle for 1 or whatever, but do something you like. Do something and sometimes it's just starting. I know one of our clients, lady, she was saying she couldn't make any time for her exercise, and she was healthy enough to exercise. So I said, what's something you do to just what's something you'd like to do? She said, I'd like to walk. I said, okay. I said, what's the one thing that you do before you walk? She said, well, I always put on my walking shoes. I said, okay, your assignment for the next week is just put on walking shoes. If you put on walking shoes, you've gotten your exercise in for the day.
Yeah.
And I want to, and it was something she liked to do. And so what was interesting was she came back the next week and she walked, averaged what was it, 8 miles a day. It was a crazy number. She walked a ton. She just by making that one shift in decisions. So we're all one decision away from it, whether it be strength training or whether it be other. But I want people to hear they can lose weight without any of the exercise. It's better to exercise. But we have clients that physically like have vertebrae issues, have autoimmune disease issues, and they're losing weight without the exercise. So your body carrying that weight is very costly to the body. It's very costly, not just the psychology. So, but we do both.
You do both. Okay, great. Thank you so much for answering that. Then, so which do you do? Early morning workouts or evening workouts? Which do you prefer?
Oh, it's early morning for us. Yeah, we
yeah. To make sure we get it in.
Yeah.
Because if you wait till the end of the day, something else may happen, or you just may not feel like it. And so we get it done.
An excuse. It's like yesterday we did our, I don't know, we only got about 12 or 13 miles in the morning because we had an appointment, and we so we decided we'd go out last night and walk our dog. Well, our dog, we were dragging him. He didn't want to go out at night. It was so funny. He normally loves to walk.
Maybe it was too cold.
It was about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. It wasn't too cold. We live in Florida.
The dog
early morning. It's I think it's Brian Tracy said. He said, if you've got a frog to eat it for breakfast. That's actually a book. Eat your frog for breakfast.
Okay, thank you for that. Next one, home cooked meals or eating out?
Mostly home cooked meals. We'll go out on occasion, but we enjoy, actually, that's relaxing. Alan, since we've been on this journey in the last few years, and him us being home, he's actually taken over the majority of the cooking. And been very creative with that, while I'm the sous chef and I help maintain everything else.
She cooks very well, but
I certainly cooked when we were raising.
Who's the chef? Who is the chef then?
Would be him. Yeah, I'm the sous chef and all that. He's been more creative and
well, you have control. Yeah, you do, but I want people to hear in this. While we prefer to cook at home just because we like to, we've had clients. I mean, I think of one of our commercial airline pilots. Who he literally eating out of airports. But he followed our process and dropped over 80 pounds. So because he's an international commercial airline pilot. He could go to any restaurant anywhere. So there's always a way for somebody that's committed. Okay. There always a way for that, because what we do is we get caught up in the belief that I can't. And it just goes back to what Henry Ford said, the guy that started Ford Motor Company. He said, if you believe you can, you're correct. If you believe you cannot, you're correct also. So when people tell themselves, I can't because I travel, I say, bull, figure it out. If your family's life depended on it, you would find a way to eat properly when you were out. When you were out, but because it's our lives, we put that as a back seat. We say, no, I'd rather with somebody pass the pizza and ice cream and the candy and whatever, and there's nothing wrong with any of that in limitation. But the point I make is eating out, for some people, they find it easier. Other people find it easier to cook home. Do what works for you.
It's true. Do what works for you. That's very true. And only us know what works for us. So we do what works for us. Thank you so much. Next one, mindfulness or intermittent fasting?
We all intermittent fast at some level. Everybody does.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Unless you figured out how to eat while you're sleeping. So, and the answer is, you said mindfulness was your question. Is that how you?
Yeah, mindfulness or fasting.
To answer it the way we tell our clients, we tell all of our clients, we're never going to tell you what to eat. because that's a hiding place. That is a hiding place. You have to change even if you're intermittent fasting. We've had people that would do 21-hour intermittent fasting and get 4,000 or 5,000 calories in the 3 hours that they're eating. When you're not going to lose weight, you have to combine. The answer is all of the above. If you find that you struggle at night, stop eating at night. And people say, "Well, I can't eat at night," and I said, "Bull, you can. You can stop." And because think about it, if you had a medical test tomorrow morning, have you ever had this? Where you had a medical test, a procedure to be done early in the morning, and you couldn't eat from 5 p.m. in the afternoon on? Has that ever happened? and we never eat during that time because I've got to have that test. Well, think about it as though your life is online. If that's a trigger area, and I'm not saying not to eat at night, but if that's a trigger area for you, then stay away from it. And so we do what we decide, and that's what we say over and over again, and people get tired of hearing it probably, but it's not a diet, it's a decision.
Right, it's a decision, and that's true. So we get to decide what we want to do.
Yeah,
we like consequences as well.
Yeah, it's like we were talking with you the other day about this. One of our clients just a few years ago, he came to a coaching call, and he had about 50 pounds to lose. He was doing great, dropped 10, 15 his first month, and it was the day after Easter, and he said, and he came all guilty. He said, "Alan, you know what I had for breakfast this morning?" And I said, "No, what'd you have?" He said, "I had apple pie." And I said, "Good for you. You figured it out, didn't you?" He said, "You're not gonna be mad?" I said, "Of course I'm not mad. You figured it out." I said, you made a decision, you figured it out. He was still lost weight that week. He didn't eat the whole apple pie. He didn't eat multiple apple pies. He made a decision how to integrate it with his eating strategy that he selected so that he can end up having success. And he said, "Oh my gosh, this is like no guilt weight loss." I said, "That's exactly what it's like. There's no reason to be guilty."
Yeah, that's true. There's no reason to be guilty of our decisions. It's our to make. Okay, so your coaching program is called Rethink Dieting.
Rethink Dieting. That is because it is the thinking that changes everything.
Right.
And after 35 years of struggling with weight, from the time I was 20 years old on, I was always looking for the magical diet, the one or exercise plan, the one that I could eat as much as I want, whenever I want, and whatever I want.
Right.
And just so you know, that's called a magic pill, and they don't exist. It doesn't exist. There is no place where you can eat as much as you want, whatever you want, and whenever you want. It doesn't exist. It's like going to the place where you can spend as much as you want, whenever you want, on whatever you want, and not affect your budget. It doesn't exist. I mean, at some level, you have to have some self-control. And so I stopped looking for that magical land and got real. And I figured out that it was all those things I've been missing. Do you have to change what you eat? Of course you do. Do you have to stop? Do you have to stop eating your favorite foods? No. Figure out how to integrate. It's like the man figured out his apple pie, and it wasn't every day. And I'll get some sugar haters here, but I don't. But it's like we recently spoke at a sugar summit, a no sugar summit, and honestly, I mean, who in their right mind believes that they can eat a ton of sugar and lose weight? You have to give it up at some level. But it doesn't mean you never have to have it again. But the point I make with all of this is a process really helps somebody become the expert on themselves.
Wow. And I think it does because in your coaching, I was reading through your bio and going through the things that you do. I can see that you emphasize particularly on the approach of your Rethink Dieting coaching, and I can see that you actually did emphasize on the philosophy and how it differs from the traditional diets and exercise plans. So yeah, it's different though, because you don't advocate a particular way to do it, but then you encourage to give up some things that we think are pleasure.
Well, here's the thing. one thing that I noticed after years of, and literally, I'm talking, I was on probably, I'm probably 6, 7 dozen diets, almost 100 diets. Okay. Yeah. And none of them, here's the thing, none of them worked for me, but they all worked for somebody. Okay. They all worked for somebody. And they were, and sure, there were some better than others, but at the end of the day, the diet, when, if I tell somebody who's 304 pounds like I was, you have to eat XYZ to lose weight. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That will be the wrong thing for that person. They will turn around and fight it every step of the way. But if I say, no, you have to, we're going to show you a strategy to create your own process, to create things. So you have to take 100% responsibility for your decisions around eating, 100% responsibility for your decisions around your exercise. And we're going to hold you accountable in a way you've never been held before. And we're going to dig into the mindset of all the things that were keeping you from losing the weight in the past, and all the challenges that you had, and then let's see it. I dare you not to lose weight, almost. And it's so funny because we see, and I don't say this to boast because it came out about our struggle. I know what it feels like to sit between the elbows of a morbidly obese man. I know what runs through his mind. I know what Angie knows what it's like to sit between the elbows of a lady who's got a lot of weight to lose. We know what it's like, and it's not easy. But at the end of the day, we want people to own it, so that when they come out of it, they're winning. They're not like on to this next thing. And it's so sad now with the magic pill philosophy, with all these drugs that are on the market now. And I mean, if there's a magic pill that has no side effects, sign me up. Okay, I'm in too. I mean, I want to be able to eat as much as I want, whenever I want, and whatever I want. But the point is, they all have side effects. They all have these horrible consequences. There's the first lawsuits against Manjaro just came out, where people are not being able to hold down food, where they're continuing to lose weight. You can read stuff online, and it's horrifying. We get a lot of people, because weight loss surgeries have been around for all. We get a lot of people that have had weight loss surgeries. They don't work if you don't change your thinking. The weight comes back on. It does. You've got to change the thinking and the decision-making process. But when we work with people to show them, they're able to get victory. And because it's kind of like, remember when do you know how to ride a bicycle?
I don't ride bicycle, but I love trekking. I love walking. I love running.
So, but my point is, what's something, an activity as a child that you did? Did you learn how to roller skate or ride a bicycle, any of that, or swim, any of those things?
No, as I say, I'm of an athlete.
Do you remember when you learned how to do your first podcast?
Do I remember?
With your first podcast, when you got it published?
Yes, I do.
Okay, wasn't that a feeling? Because there's lots of people that don't know how to do that. There's a feeling of momentum that you got from that, because you did it yourself. You accomplished it.
Yes, that's true.
You accomplished it, and that's the piece where we want people to own it on their own. We want them to really understand that. So it's not easy, but it's 100% possible. We've seen people who struggle weight for 50 plus years drop over 100 pounds. We've seen people come out of wheelchairs. We can tell story after story, because it works every time if somebody worked the system.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I didn't mean to get long winded on that, but I knew you knew how to do a podcast, Shola. So there you go.
Thank you so much. So try your transformation. So the transformation beyond weight loss. The physical changes, how has this weight loss journey impacted others? Because I know you coach other people. And you use yourself as an exemplary. Yeah. To do this.
It was never. We never lost the weight to coach other people. That was the furthest thing. In fact, I was on the phone with my mentor, person who's been our mentor for more than 20 years. This guy, he wrote a book called 48 Days to the Work You Love. His name's Dan Miller. And he told me after I lost my weight, and he was just congratulating. He said, "Man, you want to coach people on it?" I said, "That is the craziest thing I've ever heard, Dan. I don't want to tell people what to eat and what exercise to do. They already know. They already know." And not long after that, somebody reached out to me that saw our journey because it was public, and it wasn't to get a client, that's for sure. And he said, "Would you please help me?"
Wow.
And he told me a little bit of his story, and I heard myself. And so I told him, I said, "I'm never going to tell you what to eat and what exercise to do, but that's because that's not your problem." And it led to him getting free. I mean, after he dropped over 65 pounds, he ran his first mile that he'd ever run in his whole life. He was that kid in school, and it was a beautiful thing. His whole family came in and surprised and met him at this track. And his sisters and brothers. I mean, it bring tears to your eyes to see what it meant, because it wasn't that he ran a mile, it was the fact he accomplished something. And now what he's doing, he's impacting people, and he has a coaching business that's related around purpose and calling for young people all the way up to adults. And he's touched hundreds and hundreds of people now that wouldn't have been touched because he was hiding in his weight. And what we did, we just showed him how to get free.
Wow. Wow.
And so yeah, it impacted. I never saw it coming. I'm sorry.
I said that is so interesting. Do you know,
Yeah.
sometimes you're destined to do something and we get there anyway?
What's that now? Say it again.
I said sometimes you're destined to do something.
Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Oh, you got there anyway. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. If we want to contact you, how do we contact you? How do we join your program?
Well, unfortunately, there's no place on our website where somebody can push a button and join our program. It is by invitation only, because we're not for everyone. I'll tell you that. We love to have new people, but we created a training specifically for your audience. If they'll go to transformmyfuture.com/Shola, SHOLA, which that is your name, and we did that especially for your audience. And it's the 5-step strategy that Angie and I used to lose 192 pounds in 260 days. That's together we lost that much. And how we show our clients to do the same thing, even if they travel, even if they work from home, even if they've struggled with weight their entire life. It's a totally free training. There is nothing to buy on it. We've had people who've come to us that have lost 20, 30 pounds. We actually had somebody reach out to us on Mother's Day this year that she said it saved her life. She was in the hospital, but if she hadn't watched she watched the training for her husband because he needed the training, and it alerted her to she might be having a heart attack. I don't do any medical. I'm not a medical practitioner whatsoever, but it just made her conscious of it. And she said if she hadn't watched that training, she probably would not be with us. And it was a very touching email. And so we do it totally free because we want to help. Now, if people want to reach out beyond that, there's a way to do that on that training. They can do that, and we're more than happy to do it, because here's the thing: 915 million people worldwide are struggling with obesity. One person every 7 seconds is dying from an obesity-related illness worldwide, and it's going up at the rate of about 90,000 a day. It's going up so fast you can't even fathom how many millions of people are becoming obese and morbidly obese, and they're living in shame, they're living in fear, they're living in denial. And we're on a mission to change that trajectory. That's really what our dream is, to see that change is not in a way that makes it hard on people, but in a way that eradicates the shame, eradicates that, because it's like we want to be that light in a dark room. Darkness is always overcome by light.
True. It's true.
But to say this to your audience, if they struggle with weight, just know that you can get it off. If I can do it, I was the worst of the worst of the worst. I was a foodie, you name it. I've not met anybody that topped and I use the term addiction very carefully, but not addiction, but almost to that level. And there's hope. Don't be discouraged, and don't wait, for God's sakes. Some people are gonna die this Christmas because they didn't pay attention now.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
It's the truth, and we've had people on our phone that wanted to join our program, and then reached back out 6 weeks later or 8 weeks later. One of our assistants, and the person was dead. I mean, it happens, and I'm not saying this to scare people, but wake up. Come on.
Yeah.
You can't ignore it.
We can't ignore it, and the decision is ours to make, so we can't ignore it. Yes. Come on, everybody. We can't ignore it.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us today. The link that Alan just told us about, can you say it again? Transformation.
Transform my future. Then that's spelled, it's www.transform, TRANSFORM, MY, future, FUTURE.com/Shola.
Yeah.
And if they go there, they get access to that free training, watch that training, apply the principles in there, reach out to us if they want further help, and we'll see if we can help them. And but thank you so much for having us. It's been blessed.
Thank you so much for coming on our show. Thank you so much. And until next time, we've been blessed by sharing your journey. For those of us that are struggling with dieting and weight, we've been so blessed. And even for those who are not, at least we know that we need to take decisions. We need to make some decisions, very wise decisions to stay healthy. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, it's Shola, Alan, and Angie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Subscribe if you haven't done so. Like, follow, comment. Until next time. Goodbye.